Hey guys, welcome back to another Dragonheir Silent Gods video. Today we're going to be looking at the final dungeon that I've not covered yet, the Grave of Curse. So this dungeon is where you're going to be farming all of your tank gear. Obviously the sets give you HP percent, defense percent, HP percent and enlightenment as well. So they're incredibly good sets for healers and tanks. In terms of the legendary bonuses, there's one that heals you every time you use your ultimate skill, and there's also another one that shares 15% of the damage the rest of your team take with the wearer, and they do receive 15% less damage too. That can only be used by one hero in each team, so you can't stack this to gain a massive amount of damage reduction, unfortunately. But if we jump over to the Grave of Curse, and we'll have a look at the skills that the boss actually does. First of all, obviously, I will say that the teams I will be showing in this video are mostly full leveled, but they are using accessible champions for most. Anything that I'm using that's not as easily accessible is replaceable. You may just have to tweak the team slightly, which I'll talk about in a minute. So first of all, the first skill that the boss is going to use is he's going to give himself 30% increased attack and a damage bonus of 30% for 18 seconds. The second skill is dealing necrotic damage to the current enemy. Then you've got the ultimate skill, which deals necrotic damage to all enemies and gains a shield equal to 240% of the damage dealt for 20 seconds. So, as well as that, obviously, the boss is immune to all control effects, just like all of the gear dungeon bosses. So, with this boss, it is really important to make sure that you're reducing the amount of damage this boss deals with this skill in particular, so that you're getting a smaller shield and, of course, not dying. So, in terms of that, as you can see, obviously the boss is buffing himself, which is already going to provide a huge boost of damage to this ultimate skill. So you need to make sure that you're either blocking or removing these buffs. So the champion or the hero that I'm going to use in this video is a rare called Grover. He's a lightning element rare, and his ultimate skill removes 2 buffs from the target. So if you have him going every 18 seconds, because as you can see the boss here is 6 seconds, 6 seconds, and then another 6 seconds. So each rotation of the boss's skills is going to take 18 seconds. So as long as you've got a Grover or somebody else who can remove or block buffs going faster than 18 seconds, you can then set that up in the skill orders to make sure that you're removing those buffs every single time they're placed. So the way I've got mine set up is I've got my Grover going towards the end of the turn, because I've also got him using the crown artifact to give defense down. With his double hit, he's got 2 chances to place it on the boss. So if we have a look at my skill timings, obviously, as I said, 18 seconds delay on all of my heroes that are relevant. I've actually built Sigrid in this with less damage, so she's just here for attack down as a consistency. Horus I've thrown in just for a little bit more consistency on the attack down. And I am using Adolphus, but as I say, not all of the heroes here are completely accessible, but they are all interchangeable. So if you're using Adolphus, if you don't have Adolphus, you could use somebody like the main character in Ice Element. For that, you would most likely need Hexandra. What I'm going to show here is actually with Adolphus, you do not need a second healer. I will do a run afterwards by replacing Hexandra with another damage dealer, because realistically she has wasted space in this current team. But if you brought in a weaker shielder, you could still use her and still be able to clear the run without any problems at all. So Grover's ultimate skill, as I said, is going to remove 2 buffs from the target. We've then got Adolphus placing his shield just before the boss does his ultimate skill, and we've got Sigrid placing attack penalty just before as well. In the meantime as well, we'll have some, well, not necessarily Horus's ultimate skill, but his battle skill does place attack penalty, and obviously Hexandra is there to do some healing as well. So if we have a look at the gearing for this team, I've got Horus built in the allied protection set that you get from this dungeon. That's just to reduce the rest of the damage that everybody else is taking. It does massively help to reduce the shield that the boss is getting, and also keep everybody alive. Some of the heroes may be a little bit squishier. We've got Hexandra just in the build I use for her in Ancient Battlefield, so I've not changed anything here. So she's just got resistance, some good defensive stats, and a bit of enlightenment for her battle skill healing. As you can see, that does scale from enlightenment and attack. In terms of Grover, I need him to be incredibly tanky, so he's got a good amount of health, a good amount of defense, plenty of accuracy. I've also built him with skill haste. Now this isn't actually necessary as long as you use upgrades to scrolls to upgrade his skills. I don't actually have enough rare scrolls because of the amount of things I've been testing, so I can't book mine, so I've had to make sure that his ultimate skill is under an 18-second cooldown with the skill haste that I've got on him. So as you can see here, I've got a little bit on his positive rune, a little bit on his defensive rune, and I'm also using a set to give him some skill haste as well. Outside of that, obviously, as I mentioned already, I'm using the Crown of the Unclean artifact on him just to make sure I'm getting defense penalty where possible on the boss. So my Adolphus is just in his normal build, just with a little bit more skill haste to bring his cooldown down to under 18 seconds to make sure that's going out every time the boss is going to use its ultimate skill as well. As I say, you could use somebody else for this. I just have Adolphus built. It just makes it so much easier for me, and especially considering the fact that other people will have Adolphus, but you don't need him for this run. And lastly, like I said with Sigrid, I've built her with less damage for this run, so she is still crit capped. She's just got much less crit damage and less attack. This is just to make sure that I can get enough skill haste on her to make sure that my cooldown is under 18 seconds again, as she is solely hit. Well, her key job here is to place the attack penalty and bring some damage where possible. So if we have a look at the run, as you'll see, I am using the HP aura from Horus just to make sure everybody's surviving. And as I mentioned, obviously, in terms of the skill rotation, boss is going to place his buffs. As soon as my Grover can, he will remove those buffs from the boss. Hopefully it will work here. Yep, so see, both buffs are removed. Then Adolphus will shield before the ultimate skill hits, as well as Sigrid's defense attack penalty, sorry. And that is how the entire fight's going to play out. So it's going to stay in this rotation as long as you've got your cooldowns under 18 seconds. It's going to consistently repeat the exact same thing, where it's going to remove the buffs, it's going to shield, and it's going to place attack penalty just before the ultimate skill. And it means that the boss actually does not even receive a shield. So his ultimate skill is completely wasted. We are never going to die like this. The only concern, obviously, if you are running a team with 2 healers, is you're going to have to make sure you've got enough damage to survive to actually be able to kill the boss in time. This build doesn't have a lot of damage, but it does still completely... Well, it clears the boss absolutely fine. It's just not a fast run at all. So if you are trying to speed it up, you'll have to look at taking out one of the support heroes and bringing in an extra damage dealer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to let this run play out, and then I'm going to add in a second damage dealer instead of Hexandra here, and we'll see how that runs with an extra damage dealer. And there we go. As I said, it's incredibly simple. The boss will stay in the same rotation throughout the whole fight. The MVP here really is Grover. He makes this fight so easy, especially if you don't have somebody else who's capable of removing multiple buffs on a short cooldown. He's so accessible, anybody can and will get him eventually. So if you're looking to start working in towards Grave of Curse to build a team, using heroes like this just makes it so easy and so accessible for you. As I said, I really don't lose health at all in this run, so I will do a second run in a second that will show you how it plays out with a second damage dealer. Obviously, in terms of replacing, I want to really drill in that this is doable without Adolphus. You just need to bring in, you'd probably need to maintain the second healer because the shields won't be quite as big from anybody else, but you still will have plenty of survivability. You just want to make sure you're topping up between the big hits, and you will get a small shield to deal with on the boss because obviously you're mitigating less damage. But this run is incredibly replicable. The team I'm using, obviously the gear I've got on, it's quite high, but through all previous stages you will be able to clear with this team, and there was plenty of time left at the end of this run, like over a minute, so don't be put off by the fact that I'm using a build with 100% critical rate on my Sigrid. She's the only one doing damage here, and realistically if I built her for more attack it would actually be a little bit more efficient. And so just build the best you can with your damage. As long as you're getting the attack penalty, you will be absolutely fine to clear this. So as I said, I'm just going to do another run now with the second damage dealer in instead, and we'll see how that goes. And there you go. That was obviously significantly faster, probably about double this, well, half the time. I can't remember exactly what the first run took, but 2 minutes 20 on this. In terms of this, I've used Erich because everybody will get this hero at around level 30 through their story. Mine is completely unbooked, so his damage is not that high because of this. He's honestly not the best damage dealer in the game at all either. I've just thrown him in because he's a hero that everybody will have access to from completing the story realistically before you're looking to properly push this dungeon. So yeah, it is a really nice and simple dungeon once you've actually got the skill timings down and understood how that works. So just make sure you're setting all of your heroes to be able to use their skills every 18 seconds and timing that properly in these skill settings, and you will be absolutely fine. You'll be able to push through and get yourself some of the legendary tank gear. And yeah, well, best of luck, and thank you very much for watching the video today. If you are enjoying the content I'm putting out, please do remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.